The gentlemen, and today we are going to talk about the fifth module of our fourth chapter, which is the informative presentation. So last time we talked about informative composition or informative essay, and we made mention that informative essay is usually used whenever we expound on the subject matter and also present some research about the topic or even define an intricate word. Okay, so we also talked about the different functions of informative essay, and we talked about defining the term, comparing two or three or more contrast ideas. It analyzes also the data. It could also provide procedures, present opinions, or even persuade the readers. All right. So for today's module, we are going to present the informative essay that you have learned, okay, from the last meeting. So we have the following objectives. So the first objective, we are going to discuss the characteristics of an informational presentation. Second, we're going to understand the purpose and parts of the presentation. So, what do we mean by informative presentation? All right. So, in a common activity or in a common setting, most especially in a business, okay, it is considered as a written report, but in a verbal and visual format. So for example, if your manager asks you to prepare for a particular report, okay, and this report should be presented to the higher management, we call it as informative presentation. So informative presentation serves to present specific information for specific audiences. Oftenly, it is analytical or it involves the rational analysis of the information. Informative presentation may not be formal, okay? And here are some guide questions for us to answer whenever we are going to present an informative presentation. First, what is the topic? Second, who will be my audience or audiences? Third, how will the information be gathered? Fourth, we may compare a previous report to our current report if applicable for analytical purposes. And fifth, what would be the parts or outline of my presentation? So first, the purpose and parts. So the main purpose of informative presentation is to impart new knowledge. All right? So it tends to introduce a new information to the audience. One best example of a informative presentation is a product presentation. Okay? So if a new product has been launched and you're going to talk about the product to the audiences for them to know, it is one best example of informative presentation. Okay? So, what are the common parts of informative presentation? So, of course, we have the introduction, we have the body, and we have the conclusion. Introduction, just like what we have discussed in our previous lessons, that the introduction should gain the audience attention. Okay? So, by building interest, and which could also the audience could gain something from what you are discussing. Okay? So what will they gain upon hearing your message? The body of your informative presentation is imparting the message to your audience using facts, testimonies, and there should be a smooth transition, okay, from one topic to another. That is the body. And make sure that the body also will achieve your objectives of your presentation. So if your objective is to present, for example, the advantages and disadvantages of a particular topic, then that is the only thing that you're going to talk about. Never ever talk about something else outside from what is or what is within your objectives. Okay? And then conclusion, okay? The speaker should reassert or even reinforce the topic or the product to the listeners. Okay? You may also review some main points, okay, and effectively close the speech. Okay, so we don't just simply close the speech by saying uh, goodbye or thank you very much for listening. All right, but the conclusion is more on the action in the part of the audience. So in the informative presentation, we may use visualization. All right, you may use question and answer. Okay, and of course the delivery. Visualization such as charts, graphs, diagrams, maps, or the use of animation can also gain attention in the part of the listeners. The visual serves also to deepen the audience understanding, and it should be neat and attractive, and it should be very visible to the listeners. Question and answer portion allow your audience the opportunity to ask questions for clarification and additional information. The delivery, which is one of the most important part, okay, would be your platform presence. Okay, so you have to watch for your clothes, okay, your poise, your eye contact to the audience, your facial expression, your enthusiasm in delivering your message, your sincerity, okay? And of course, not to mention pronouncing the words correctly and by adding effective gestures. So here are our speech guidelines, okay? So first we have the topic, then the purpose of your speech, your audience, what would be your supporting materials, organization, of course, your introduction, your conclusion, and your delivery. So, of course, the topic is depending largely on what would be your discussion. All right, what are you going to talk about to the audience? Okay. Purpose. Purpose, of course, will be your objective. The reason why, in the first place, you are giving this speech in the first place. Okay, why do you have to disseminate this information? What is your main goal? Of course, audience would be our listeners, our viewers, which is very important also. That we also made mention that identifying our audience, okay, would definitely help us to adjust the level of our speech. Supporting materials, these are the things that we will be needing in terms of visualization. Okay, we may use equipment such as projectors, laptop, or smartphones, okay, for that matter, and most especially some computer software applications. Organization, outlining the parts of your speech from the very beginning up to the end. Introduction is something that we should get the attention of our readers. Actually, in the introduction, you have to remember AIDA. AIDA means A-I-D-A. All right? A meaning attention, I for interest, D desire or decision, and A is for action. So we call it AIDA. Okay, so the first thing that you have to do is to get the attention of the readers or the viewers or the listeners. Then, upon getting their attention, you have to penetrate their interest. Once you have gotten their interest, they would be inclined to listen to your speech. And once they did that, make sure you proceed by getting their desire or their decision. So that after their decision, they already going to act upon your speech. Conclusion, okay, is the ending remark of your speech. Okay, it is something that it should always be remembered. It is something that should always be imprinted in the mind of the audience. That is the conclusion. Avoid saying the phrase, um, in my conclusion. You don't need to use the word conclusion itself, but just proceed and deliver the conclusion if you believe you are already finished discussing thoroughly the body of your presentation. And of course, the delivery. All right. So in the delivery, okay, make sure that your voice is audible, and the way you deliver your speech should be, it should possess authority. Okay, saying that you know what you're talking about from head to toe, 100%. All right. And upon having your voice, also check your pronunciation. Then check your gestures, your bodily gestures, your facial expression. Okay.
Organizational structures. Informative speech. In this video, we'll review organizational structures for informative speeches. The information in this video provides a general overview. Please consult assigned readings for more in-depth information. As the course progresses, many of the ideas discussed in this video will be covered in more detail. There are 3 parts to formal speech construction: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Each of these 3 parts of a speech contains several components, some of which should be covered in order. All formal speeches start with an introduction. There are at least 3 components to a formal speech introduction: the attention-gaining device, the topic statement, and the preview. The attention-gaining device is designed to gain interest of your audience and encourage audience members to listen to your speech. All attention-gaining devices should be related to your speech topic. There are several common ways to begin a speech that help gain audience attention, including making an appropriate joke, using a play on words, referring to the occasion for which the speech is given, referring to the audience member's relationship to the topic, stating a startling statistic, stating a quotation from a person stating something connected to your topic, and telling a short story or anecdote. However you choose to start your speech, it's important to keep it brief. Most attention-gaining devices are only 30 seconds or less. For a speech on the topic of running, an attention-gaining device using a play on words might sound something like this. If you want your heart to keep running smoothly, try running with your legs at least 3 times a week. You could also use a startling statement to gain attention for this topic, like, heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. According to the Mayo Clinic website, one of the biggest drops in heart disease risk occurs when you go from living a sedentary lifestyle to being active for as little as 1 hour a week. Once you've gained the attention of the audience, the next step is to reveal the topic of the speech. This component, the topic statement, is usually shorter than the attention-gaining device. Generally, a topic statement is completed in a single, complete sentence. A topic statement for a speech on running might sound like this. Today, I'll explain why running is a great way to stay fit and healthy. A topic statement for a speech on the history of comics might sound something like this. I'll share with you the rich history of comic books in the United States. And a topic statement for a speech on crows might sound like this. In this speech, I will prove to you that crows are some of the most intelligent animals on our planet. The final component of an introduction is a preview. The preview lists the main points of your speech in the order that they will be discussed. Like the attention-gaining device and the topic statement, the preview should be worded as clearly and briefly as practical. It aids audience memory when the points are worded similarly or enumerated. For instance, in a speech about running, a preview might be, I will explain 3 important aspects of running. First, the warm-up, second, proper form, and third, the cool-down. The keys to a strong preview are succinct wording, enumeration, and clear categorization. Generally, the introduction of a speech should comprise about 5% to 10% of the total speech time. So, if your speech is 10 minutes, the introduction should be approximately 30 seconds to 1 minute in length. Once you've gained the audience's attention and primed members to listen to your speech, move on to the body. The body of the speech should cover the main points as listed in the preview. Generally, the body should have at least 2 but not more than 5 main points. Many speeches have 3 main points. However, having 3 main points is not mandatory. You should use the number of main points that best fits your topic, trying to have at least 2 but no more than 5 main points. In an informative speech, there are 4 common organizational patterns used to arrange main points. These patterns are based on time, topic, space, and cause and effect. The patterns described can also be used to organize information within each individual main point as well. Further, some of the patterns discussed here can be incorporated into persuasive speeches, depending on the intent of your message. We will discuss these options in detail as the course progresses. This video simply presents a general overview of organizational patterns useful for informative speeches. A common way to arrange main points in a speech is by when events occurred in time. Time patterns can move from the past to the present or from the present to the past. When using a time pattern, it's important to explain events chronologically, in the order in which they occurred. For example, the arrangement of main points for a speech on the history of cell phones might sound like this. The first analog handheld phone was introduced in 1979. 2G digital cellular phones were introduced in 1991. 3G digital broadband cellular phones were introduced in 2011. And 4G native Internet Protocol cellular phones were introduced in 2009. The arrangement of main points for a speech on fashion trends in the 20th century might be arranged like this. Fashion styles from the 1940s, fashion styles from the 1960s, and fashion styles from the 1980s. Another common organizational pattern used to arrange main points in an informative speech is by topic. One way to organize main points according to topic is to use well-known categories for arrangement. For instance, the arrangement of main points for a speech describing the 4 seasons of a year might be arranged like this: summer, fall, winter, and spring. Or, the arrangement of main points for a speech on U.S. generations might be arranged like this: Baby Boomers, Generation X, Generation Z, and Millennials. Speakers do not necessarily need to use well-known categories and often create their own. However, when creating original categories, try to keep the wording parallel and similar. For instance, the main points for a speech on gardening might be arranged like this: preparing the soil, selecting and spacing plants, and tending to plants to ensure viability. Or, the main points for a speech on blood might be arranged like this: 4 major blood groups, A, B, AB, O, the RH factor, and compatible blood types for donation. Another common category for arranging main points in an informative speech is space. Spatial patterns organize information according to how things or objects are situated in a given area. For instance, listing items arranged on the bottom, in the middle, then on the top, or describing towns as passed on a trip from the south to the north. For example, the main points for a speech about recycling at the college might list how recycling bins should be arranged. The first bin is for paper, the second bin is for glass, the third bin is for plastic. The main points for a speech about building a birdhouse might be arranged according to the steps in the building process. First, build a strong foundation. Next, add walls, one with a doorway. And finally, place a roof on top. The fourth way of arranging main points in an informative speech can also be used for a persuasive speech. The cause and effect pattern first states something that has occurred or will occur, then states what results from it happening. For example, the arrangement of main points for a speech about proper eating habits might sound like this: For good nutrition, eat healthy foods with a proper balance of protein, fruits and vegetables, and grains. Good nutrition will lead to feeling better, more restful nights, and a smaller waistline. The arrangement of main points for a speech on saving for retirement might sound like this. When should a person start saving for retirement? How much should a person save each month for retirement? And how will saving now affect a person's financial health in retirement? Once the body is constructed, it's time to work on the conclusion to the speech. A conclusion for a speech should contain 3 elements: a restatement of the topic statement, a review of the main points covered, and a memorable statement at the end. A main purpose of a conclusion is to bring the speech psychologically to a close. The conclusion helps tie the speech together at the end. Start a conclusion by restating the topic statement offered in the introduction. You can use the same wording or paraphrase the statement. If you paraphrase, use wording similar to what was used in the introduction. Next, list the main points as they were covered in the speech. As in the introduction, keep the review brief. You can use the same wording or paraphrase a bit. If you paraphrase, again, use wording similar to what was used in the introduction. Finally, end the speech with a memorable statement. Try to align the clincher with what was stated in the attention-gaining device. Like the introduction to a speech, the conclusion is generally short, only comprising about 5% to 10% of the speech's total time. For a 10-minute speech, a conclusion should be approximately 30 seconds to 1 minute. This video offered a general overview for organizing an informative speech. Many of the organizational structures described in this video can be used for persuasive speeches as well. We will continue to discuss organizational structures for speeches as the course continues.
Everyone in the world today suffers from some kind of fear. However, about 4 to 5% experience a more severe form of fear known as phobias. Some of the most common phobias are claustrophobia, agoraphobia, which is the fear of public places, and arachnophobia, the fear of spiders. Then there are the more uncommon phobias, such as pelidophobia, the fear of bald people, or geniophobia, the fear of chins. There is even a name for the fear of Friday the 13th, paraskeviketriophobia. According to the latest count, there was a total of 530 named phobias. However, my particular phobia is so rare that it doesn't even have a name. It is simply called the fear of baseballs. That's right, you heard me, the fear of baseballs. I know it sounds stupid, but it's true. I am terrified of baseballs. Even holding one in my hand sends shivers down my spine. People don't understand this. They do not understand that this is a real fear. I know it's been said that the only thing to fear is fear itself, but that's not true. I'm not scared of being scared of baseballs. I'm scared of the ball itself, this hard, round object that is usually flying fast through the air. But some people fight to the death with me about this. For example, just this weekend, I was at my friend's apartment, and they found out that I have an extreme fear of baseballs. So what do? They decide they're going to help cure me of this fear by playing catch with the ball over my head. I get so scared that I have to leave the room and sit on the stairway. And believe me, this is not the first time that this has happened. Now, you may be wondering how I acquired this phobia. I was about 4 years old and on a t-ball team. I was just learning, so my catching skills weren't quite as good as they needed to be. Then, one day at practice, some guy threw a ball at me as hard as he could. It hit me directly in the head and knocked me out cold. Needless to say, I didn't stick with the sport, and ever since then, I've been scared to death of baseballs. Now, it's not like I hate the sport of baseball. I'm a huge Chicago Cubs fan. I can just never attend the games in person. In conclusion, my unusual fear of baseballs is something real that I have to live with. And while it is inconvenient at times, like when I can't attend the Cubs games or occasionally have to leave social situations, I take comfort in the fact that at least I'm not afraid of bald people, or public places, or spiders, or even Friday the 13th. So I suppose it could be worse.
Module 6, Persuasive Writing. In this module, we are going to define what is persuasive essay. Second, explain how to make and organize a persuasive essay. Third, to enumerate and explain the important triggers for persuasive. Okay, so what do we mean by persuasive or argument essay? So persuasive essay is also known as an argument essay. So it utilizes logic and reason to show that one idea is more legitimate than another idea. So if you can remember, when I ask you to write a documented essay, I ask you to choose a topic which you will make a comparative analysis between topic A and topic B. And in your conclusion, you're going to choose which one do you believe is the correct one, okay, based on the data that you have gathered. So this is also what persuasive essay is all about, okay? So it presents a comparative analysis between two topics upon which you're going to persuade the reader in a certain point of view, okay, that that particular view is definitely correct based on what you have researched, based on what you have gathered. All right. So, in other words, a particular documented essay, if it's written by comparing two ideas and analyzing these two ideas, and we have chosen a particular topic from another, so therefore, if ever that we are going to present this to the audience, okay, and persuade them that this particular idea is much better than the other one, then it becomes already a persuasive essay. All right. So, in other words, a persuasive essay attempts to persuade the reader to adopt a certain point of view, and after that, to take action. It also uses sound reasoning, okay, and solid evidences, of course, through the data that you have gathered by stating facts, reasons, and several cases or examples. So you have to remember that in persuasive or argument essay, the topic should be very clear. Evidences or facts should be presented in a very clear and precise manner, and the body of the paragraph should flow together. So there should be a coherent, okay, between paragraphs. They are intertwined or interconnected with each other, which talks about the main topic itself. So how are we going to write a persuasive essay? All right. So first and foremost, you have to take a side. Second, your readers. Third, do a thorough research. Fourth, the structure. And fifth, support your argument. All right. So when you say take a side, okay, whenever you write a persuasive essay, you already have what you already have an idea on your mind on which side are you going to take. Okay, even though we could say that this could be purely based on your own opinion without gathering data or facts first, of course you already have an idea of taking a particular side already. Okay, so for example, some of you have chosen a topic, the legalization of same-sex marriage in the Philippines, isn't it? Right? So, in your own opinion, if somebody will ask you, do you agree on the same-sex marriage? Okay. So, if you say you do not agree with the same-sex marriage, you are already taking a side. All right, which is good because that is what persuasive essay is all about. So if you're really inclined, okay, to choose a side of saying no, I disagree with the same-sex marriage, then you have to gather information about it. Okay, so you have also to check your reader's point of view. That's the second way of writing a persuasive essay. So out of 100%, how many percentage usually agrees to the same-sex marriage, and how many percentage those who disagree with same-sex marriage? Okay. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will be influenced by by your readers. All right. It doesn't necessarily mean that if ever that most of your readers, okay, disagree with same-sex marriage, you will also disagree with them. No. All right. Okay. So you should not be influenced, but rather take precaution on gathering more data information about your topic. All right. Okay. Even though most of the time, most writers tends to incline with the decision of the readers, only for the reason that they would like their composition to be read and to be liked by their readers. But then again, the integrity is being at loss if ever that you will always be influenced by your readers or your viewers. Third one, do a thorough research. Okay, this is very, very important. So if you can remember our documented essay lecture, that the information that you will be getting should be from reliable sources, and you should not get limited resources. Get as many as resources as you can so that you could have more information, the broader your knowledge would be about the topic. Then the structure, of course, the structure is always kind of the same because you have your introduction, you have your discussion, and you have your ending remark or your conclusion. Then support your argument. Supporting your argument is not only based on your research, but supporting your argument could be based on different testimonies from different people, different opinion from other people. Supporting your argument could also be referred to different cases or situation or current events that is happening right now, which you can use in your persuasive essay. What are the important things about persuasive writing? So first, let us talk about apologia. So when you say apologia, this is different from apologizing. Okay, so apologia is a defense of one's conduct or opinion. On the other hand, when you apologize, it is different because, for example, when you say, I did something wrong and I regret doing it, that is apologizing. However, in apologia, you are defending yourself. So you are either by saying this, that you did what you did was not wrong, or denying that you were responsible, or you are denying that you were responsible for what happened. That is apologia. So it is quite different from apologizing in the first place. Apologizing, just like what we said, that you tend to say sorry, okay, to the things that you have done something wrong, isn't it? But in apologia, you tend to defend what you did or the act that you have committed. And that is also the same with persuasive writing. We do not apologize whenever we write a persuasive essay, but we tend to defend the idea that we would like the audience to know. Okay? The idea that we have taken side with. Next one is passion. Okay? So what do you mean by passion? So, in writing a persuasive essay, you should have passion within you. Meaning, you should have the great ability to disarm or even to influence a group of people, okay, together based on a common interest or common enthusiasm. So, when you speak passionately, when you write something passionately from your heart, okay, the words become more authentic. So this authenticity enables you to advance your message to your readers without generating any doubt. So in order to persuade your audience, you must first gain their trust. Okay? And of course, gaining their trust is also knowing what they need and what makes them interested in the first place. The third one is what we call as the language features. Actually, language features is using the right words for your composition. So there could be a more powerful words that we tend to use as compared to the ordinary words that we know. For example, the use of powerful verbs and powerful adjectives. So, for example, when you say uh, a powerful verb such as very, I'm sorry, again, so another example of powerful verb, okay, for example, the word said. So let's just say the word that you use is the verb said. So instead of using the word said, okay, you could describe it more and use the word whispered or mentioned or shouted or cried or even using the word exclaimed. Okay, those are more powerful verbs. Another example of an ordinary verb could be the word walked. Okay, so instead of using the ordinary verb walked, you could use the word mindered or stomped or marched, tiptoed, or even shuffled. Okay. Another example would be a powerful adjectives. So instead of using the words very noisy, you could use the word deafening. Instead of using the words very painful, you use the word excruciating. Instead of using the words very poor, you could use the word destitute. Instead of using the word very damaging, you could use the word devastating. Instead of using the words very beautiful, you could use the word gorgeous. All right, so on and so forth. So, in terms of language features, the use of correct words should also be something that you need to consider in writing your persuasive essay. The next one is pros and cons, the positive and negative. So remember, in writing your persuasive essay, you should cite both. You should cite the positive and negative about the topic, okay? So that the readers would not find your composition biased. Okay, you should have a complete overview of both sides, and then based on the material that you have gathered, okay, you are now going to choose a side, and then you're going to persuade your reader to take your side. Okay. The next one is emotions. Actually, it is not new anymore in terms of writing a composition in applying emotions in our composition. Remember that as human being, we are emotional type of people, and that emotions, okay, we could use that to trigger, to influence the reader's behavior. Okay, so by using that emotion side, okay, and using a proper words, okay, we could easily influence, we could easily persuade the readers. Okay, so let's proceed to the next one, and the next one is vocabulary. All right. So actually, vocabulary and language features are almost the same. So we tend to use the appropriate words, and the words that we tend to use are not that simple or straightforward words, but words which connotes more on emotion. All right, that connotes on the emotional side of the reader. So we call it the emotive vocabulary words. Okay. Now, so the second one, next one is argument. And when you say the argument, so basically the word, the meaning of the word itself, that we need to persuade the readers by letting them know that the side that we are trying to defend is the right one. All right, so that's the argument. Okay, so it is very important for you to let your readers know that your side is the right one and they need to believe you. All right, they need to be persuaded, okay, in that side that you are trying to explain to them. Okay, so in the argument, okay, uh, present facts on both sides, present facts on the positive and the negative side. Okay. Next one is rhetorical questions. So rhetorical questions basically are just a question upon which you're the one who answered it for yourself. We call it rhetorical question. All right. So for example, whenever we use the word did you eat? All right. Okay, you could answer it for yourself, but it will appear as if you're still asking the question. For example, did you eat? Right? You already have eaten, right? Okay, those are rhetorical questions because you ask question and then you answer it afterwards. Okay, instead of waiting for the answer from your listener. All right. So rhetorical questions is also a method or technique for you to persuade your readers. Okay. All right. So like for example, when I say I am right when I say that same-sex marriage should not be legalized in the Philippines, right? I'm definitely right. So I just answered my own question. That is an example of rhetorical question. Next one is personal pronouns. The use of pronouns, most especially in a plural form, such as we or our. All right. So whenever you cite an idea, you don't just simply use the word I, okay, or me, but you choose the pronoun we or our to connote that you are not the only one who agreed with that idea, but there are a lot of people who are also, okay, inclined to your idea. So that's why we use the word we and ours. Or if it's more of a personal side of the pronoun, you could use also the word you, which that connotes uh, personalized message to the readers themselves, and that could also easily influence the readers. And last but not the least are facts. Okay? Remember, facts should back up your composition. Okay? It also makes your composition more believable. You could use statistical data or percentages or survey, for example. All right? In that way, the readers can also be convinced.